What's going on, guys? It's DG here, and today I wanted to make a video about why I think it's important to invest into gear. And not only gear, but used gear. So for the past few years I've been shooting, and I've always kind of upgraded my equipment throughout the years, and I basically wanted to talk to you guys about how I do so. A lot of people see that I'm always selling camera gear, and they always ask me, like, what's the best camera I should buy right now? And that's kind of hard for me to answer because a lot of times it's really depends on what you're trying to shoot. If you're doing photography, if you're doing videos, or if you plan on doing both. So cameras are kind of like tools. There's different tools for different jobs. Also, budget is one thing that you always have to factor in. It just really depends on what you want to spend and really just what you're trying to do with the camera. So one of my main things I wanted to talk about is buying used gear. I've had a lot of success over the years just buying cameras offline from people that either buy them and didn't need them. I've also bought cameras from rental companies, and basically whenever I do that, I'm trying to really just save some money. Camera gear can get very expensive, especially when you get into the cinema cameras, so I've just learned over time that you can find some really good stuff whenever you look used. You have to be very careful. You have to make sure you ask the right questions when you're buying a camera. I'm actually thinking about making a whole video about how I go about buying used cameras, but today I just wanted to briefly touch on just why you should buy camera gear. So there is a few ways you can make some money when you buy camera gear. If you're an owner, you can actually rent out your camera gear to other shooters and other photographers. You can also charge money for your camera gear for different shoots. So for instance, say I get a $3,000 budget and the client wants to use a Red cinema camera. I'm actually a Red camera owner, so I won't have to go out and waste part of that budget to rent it out. I can actually just pay myself. So that's one good thing, that you can always, save a couple extra dollars instead of having to rent gear if you own it. One other thing I wanted to say was you can actually buy gear to sell it. So that's kind of like a part-time job for me. I'll show you real quickly my Facebook Marketplace. That's one good place to buy used gear. I'll touch on that really briefly. So if you look here, this is my inbox for my Facebook Marketplace. And as you can tell, I take this pretty seriously. The list goes on and on and on. I'm pretty much on Facebook every single day looking for good deals on cameras. And what this does for me is it allows me to always upgrade my gear, but also if I buy a piece of gear that I don't necessarily like, I can always sell it back to the community. So I've had a lot of success over the years doing that. I literally make a lot of money on the side just really buying and selling gear. Like I said, I'm pretty much on Facebook every single day, so I'm always looking for the best deals that I can get, and you would be surprised at the condition of the cameras that you can actually find. A lot of times people will think they're gonna start photography or start videography, and they go and buy this expensive kit, and then they quickly realize that they just aren't cut out for it or just don't have interest. So you would be very surprised at the kind of gear and the quality of gear that you can find for a reasonable discount. So there are a few things that I don't ever buy used, and that is SD cards. I don't like to buy cards used because you don't know if the card's ever going to be corrupted or if it's ever had any issues in the past. Another thing that I never buy used is microphones. I have learned in the past that some of my microphones actually go out, and usually it's with the cords and that kind of stuff. So it's one of those things that I don't want to personally jeopardize because good audio is key for videos. And one other thing that I usually never buy used is filters, because you never know how the person kept their filters. It could have scratches and all that kind of stuff. And most of the time these are usually budget friendly, so I just make sure I always buy those new. Some things that I do buy used are cameras, lenses, tripods, C-stands, lights, you name it. Pretty much everything that I own, I have bought used. So there's three main places that I usually look for camera gear. That is Craigslist, OfferUp, and Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace has been one of the best places for me to buy used gear. I find a lot of good deals on there, and a lot of times it's easy to communicate. You can see who you're talking to, and there's no sketchy business going on there. You do have to be careful when meeting up with people. I always meet in public places to make sure that, nothing weird's gonna happen. Nobody's gonna try to rob you or anything like that. And I've honestly never had any issues to this day. So going back to what I originally wanted to talk about was why I think it's important to buy used gear. It's basically a good way to network. Anytime you're buying gear, most of the time those people are gonna be other shooters. So you can either add them to your team, or sometimes you can even and go help shoot for them. So that's one good way to network. You can always save some money. That's the best part about it. And you can always find some pretty good used equipment to up your production value. So over the years, I've always sold the cameras that I don't really want to use anymore, and I use that money to invest into new used gear. For example, I just bought this camera. It's the Canon R5. It came with the 24-70 RF lens. I basically bought it from a guy that used it, and he just realized that the file sizes were way too big for his workflow. He was churning out about 100 videos a month, and he really just needed something that was quicker to work with. So for me, this was a great way to upgrade my camera, try out some new gear, and save a few $100s along the way. So I do plan on making another video soon that's going to kind of break down how I actually go about buying used gear. But if you have any questions or anything like that, you can feel free to send me a message. You can also follow me on Instagram at RealDeanGibson. You can shoot me a message on there if you have any more questions about what you should be looking at, what kind of cameras, what your budget is, and all that good stuff. I'll do my best to help you out. Cameras kind of are a personal preference. A lot of times you'll figure out what you really like over time after using different camera models. I am personally a Canon fan. I've used Sony over the years, and I've just always kind of came back to Canon because I just really love the color science. And when I bring the footage in post, it's really easy to color and just knock out the edit. So do your research, see what cameras you think you might like, look into different pricing. Always look up the retail value. You can also go on Adorama. They have used gear, so you can kind of see if the used gear you're looking at is priced accordingly, and if not, you can always offer something lower. So if you did find this helpful, go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for more content coming soon.